Hey everyone, welcome to tonight's immersive journey into a world of flickering oil lamps, bustling markets, and unrelenting survival. We're stepping into the Byzantine Empire in the year 650 CE, a time when Constantinople stood as a glittering crossroads of East and West, but life for most was a daily battle against hardship. Forget the golden mosaics and imperial pomp you might imagine. This is the raw, unfiltered reality of an ordinary Byzantine. You'd be begging for a modern mattress by noon. Before we dive in, take a moment to like this video if you're ready for the ride, and subscribe if you love these late-night historical deep dives. Drop a comment below. Let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is. It's always fascinating to connect with you, whether you're sipping tea in London at midnight or winding down in Sydney at dawn. Now, get comfortable. Dim the lights, pull up a blanket, maybe turn on a fan for that soft, humming backdrop. Let's slip into the smoky, incense-laden streets of 650 CE together, where every day is a test of endurance and every night a chance to dream of something better. Waking up in Constantinople, a rude awakening. Picture this. You've just woken up in the year 650 CE, in the heart of Constantinople, the city that never sleeps, mostly because the fleas won't let you. The good news? You're still breathing. The bad news? Your bed is staging a revolt against your spine. Your bed is a thin mat of straw and rushes, thrown across a creaky wooden frame if you're lucky, or directly on the cold, packed dirt floor if you're not. The straw is lumpy, prickly, and smells like a mix of mildew and the neighbor's goat, which probably wandered through your house last week. It's been reused for years, stuffed with whatever was cheap and available, maybe some reeds, maybe some chaff, definitely some bugs. Pillows? Not a chance. You've got a wadded-up cloak or a sack of barley for your head, and it's about as comfortable as a tax demand from the emperor. Your blanket is a heavy wool square, woven by hand and never washed, caked with the grime of a dozen winters. It's less a blanket and more a portable ecosystem. The air is pierced by the relentless clang of church bells from the nearby monastery, your morning alarm, and it's not set to snooze. The sound echoes through the city, bouncing off stone walls and rattling your bones. You squint into the dimness, where the only light comes from a small, unglazed window, just a hole in the wall with a wooden shutter that's more decorative than functional. It lets in drafts, dust, and the occasional curious pigeon, but not much else. Your home is a modest affair, a single room of stone or mud brick, depending on your status. If you're a city dweller, it's cramped, with walls stained by smoke and time. If you're on the outskirts, it's a wattle and daub hut, patched with whatever you could scrounge. Either way, it's a shared space. Your spouse is grumbling about the price of fish, your kids are sprawled across the floor, and a couple of chickens are clucking indignantly in the corner. Oh, and there's your cousin, who showed up last month and never left. Privacy is as mythical as a dragon in these parts. The smell hits you like a wave. It's a rich tapestry of wood smoke, unwashed bodies, animal dung, and a faint trace of incense from last night's prayers to St. Michael. Constantinople is a city of 500,000, packed tighter than a merchant's coin purse, and the air reflects it, dense, heavy, alive with the scent of humanity. Scented candles? Not invented yet. The best you've got is a sprig of lavender tucked under your mat, but it's fighting a losing battle. You roll off your bed, wincing as your bare feet meet the floor. It's either slick with last night's rain, which seeped through the leaky roof, or gritty with dust that's older than the empire itself. Your joints ache. You're 24, but in Byzantine terms, that's practically 1 foot in the grave. Your spine creaks like a ship's mast in a storm, and your knees sound like someone's grinding stones in a sack. Welcome to morning in the Byzantine Empire. You're never alone, not with the rats scurrying in the shadows, the fleas plotting their next assault, and your entire family sharing your personal space. This is just the start of your day, and it's only going to get more challenging from here. The morning ritual, nature's unkind call. Your first task of the day is urgent, and it's not a polite request. It's nature roaring like a war trumpet. If you're dreaming of a clean private bathroom with fluffy towels and a flush valve, prepare for a rude awakening. In 650 CE, the call of nature is a public, perilous, and profoundly unpleasant affair. If you're a humble city dweller, your bathroom is a wooden bucket tucked in a dark corner of your one-room home. It's already brimming from last night, thanks to your brother-in-law who overindulged on fermented cabbage. The smell is apocalyptic, a mix of human waste and regret that could make a vulture reconsider its life choices. You hold your breath, do your business as quickly as possible, and then face the next hurdle, getting rid of it. In Constantinople, waste disposal is a community effort and not the heartwarming kind. You lug the bucket to the street, ideally shouting, "Cave Felis," Latin for "watch out below," before tossing the contents into the gutter. The streets are sloped to guide waste toward the city's drains, but those are often clogged with everything from fish bones to broken pottery. The result? A flowing river of filth, where human waste mingles with animal droppings, spilled wine, and mysterious sludge you'd rather not identify. Pedestrians dodge as best they can, but no one's quick enough when a bucket's dumped from a second-story window. If you're near one of Constantinople's public latrines, you might think you've upgraded. Think again. These are stone benches with holes carved out, where you sit shoulder to shoulder with strangers, merchants, monks, maybe even a soldier fresh from the Persian front. It's less a bathroom and more a social club with terrible ventilation. The pit below is a festering horror, and the air is so thick you can taste it. You might try to make small talk about the weather or the emperor's latest decree, but breathing too deeply is a mistake you only make once. Toilet paper? A fantasy. Your options are limited. A handful of straw from the stable, a rag that's seen better days, or, if you're out of everything else, a smooth pebble from the street. Some folks just use their hands and rinse in a nearby fountain, if they're lucky enough to find one that's not green with algae. Hand-washing isn't a cultural priority, so you can imagine the state of hygiene. Handshakes, unsurprisingly, haven't caught on. If you're in a fortress or a wealthy merchant's home, you might have access to a latrina privata, a private toilet built into the wall, with a chute that drops waste into the city moat or a cesspit below. It sounds luxurious until you realize that cesspit hasn't been cleaned since the last dynasty, and the chute is a known entry point for spies or thieves. Yes, people have climbed through toilet chutes to infiltrate strongholds. It's the ultimate backdoor in every sense. Whether you're a peasant or a minor noble, the morning ritual is a humbling experience. Cold, smelly, and occasionally hazardous. You emerge from it slightly traumatized but alive, which is more than some can say. And you haven't even brushed your teeth yet. We'll get to that later. Breakfast, a grim necessity. You've survived the latrine ordeal, so surely you deserve a reward, a warm, hearty breakfast to fuel your day. Nope. This is the Byzantine Empire, where food is less about pleasure and more about staving off starvation for another 24 hours. You shuffle to the hearth, a smoky fire in the middle of your home. The smoke is supposed to escape through a hole in the roof, but half the time it just swirls around, stinging your eyes and coating everything in soot. Your meal is pulse, the Byzantine staple that's less a dish and more a cry for help. It's a thick porridge of barley, spelt, or millet, boiled until it's a gluey, grayish sludge. If you're lucky, it's flavored with a shriveled onion, a sprig of thyme, or a few beans that didn't go to the landlord. If you're not, it's just grain and water, cooked in a clay pot that's been simmering since the last full moon. New ingredients are tossed in daily, so every bite is a gamble. Will it taste like leeks or last week's fish? On the side, you've got bread, but don't get excited. Byzantine bread is a dense, heavy loaf of barley or rye, often mixed with chaff, ground chickpeas, or even sawdust when times are tough. It's baked in a communal oven, if your neighborhood has one, or over your own fire, where it comes out charred on one side and doughy on the other. You don't slice it, you hack at it with a knife that's more rust than blade. It's so tough you could use it to fend off bandits. For a drink, you're not reaching for a latte or even water. Wells and rivers are often tainted with sewage or worse, so water's a last resort. Instead, you sip posca, a sour blend of water and vinegar that's supposed to kill germs but mostly just kills your taste buds. Alternatively, there's zythos, a weak ale brewed by every household. It's low in alcohol, cloudy with sediment, and tastes like it was fermented in a sandal, but it's safer than the Bosphorus water. Kids drink it, grandparents drink it, and you're drinking it at 6 a.m. because coffee won't arrive in Europe for another millennium. Meat is a rare luxury, saved for feast days or if you've bartered your last good tunic for a scrap of salted pork. Fish is more common thanks to Constantinople's ports, but it's usually dried or smoked into something that requires serious jaw strength. Fresh vegetables or fruit, only in season, and only if you can afford them. A peach or a handful of grapes is a treat for the wealthy, not for you. Your diet is mostly grains, with the occasional cabbage or turnip to break the monotony. You choke down your pulls, gnaw on your bread, and try not to think about the weevil you just crunched. Breakfast doesn't nourish your soul. It just keeps your body moving until lunch, which, spoiler alert, is more of the same. Getting dressed, a scratchy existence. Stomach, full. It's time to get dressed. Don't expect a wardrobe full of options or a mirror to check your look. In 650 CE, fashion is less about style and more about not freezing to death. Your wardrobe consists of one outfit, a knee-length linen or wool tunic, dyed a dull brown, gray, or ochre because bright colors are for nobles who can afford imported dyes. The fabric is hand-woven, coarse, and feels like it's waging war on your skin. The seams are uneven, stitched by someone who learned sewing from a drunk tailor. It's baggy, shapeless, and designed for durability, not comfort. If you're a woman, you might layer a longer shift underneath, but it's just as scratchy and twice as heavy when it gets damp. Underwear is a maybe. Linen undergarments exist, but they're expensive and rare for common folk. Most men go without, letting the tunic chafe in places you'd rather not think about. Women might wear a loose undershirt, but it's not exactly lingerie. It's more like a potato sack with ambitions. If you're lucky, you've got a belt to cinch the whole mess together, maybe adorned with a cheap bronze buckle if you're feeling fancy. Washing clothes is a Herculean task. You'd need to haul water from a well or fountain, heat it over the fire, and scrub with lye or wood ash, which burns your hands and barely touches the stains. Then you hang it to dry in a city where dust, soot, and seagull droppings are the air's main ingredients. Most people just wear their clothes until they disintegrate or the smell becomes a public nuisance. Laundry day is less frequent than a solar eclipse. Shoes are a mixed blessing. If you have them, they're leather sandals or ankle boots stitched together with sinew and hope. They're stiff, they leak, and they offer less support than a broken promise. Most folks go barefoot, navigating streets littered with broken tiles, fish guts, and the occasional stray nail. Your feet are calloused, cracked, and probably hosting a fungal infection that no one's named yet. And then there's the itching. Fleas, lice, and bedbugs are your constant companions, nesting in your clothes, hair, and bedding. Everyone's got them. Peasants, priests, even the emperor's courtiers. You scratch your scalp while bargaining at the market, and no one bats an eye. If you're unlucky, you've got scabies or a rash, and the only treatment is a prayer to St. Basil and a dubious salve made from pig fat and herbs. A dermatologist? That's 1,300 years away. You're dressed, but you're not ready for the world. You're just ready to endure it. Work, the relentless grind. You've eaten your sad porridge and donned your itchy tunic. Now it's time to work because, in the Byzantine Empire, idleness is a sin and survival is a full-time job. If you're a farmer on the outskirts of Constantinople, you're up before dawn, trudging to fields owned by a landlord, a monastery, or the emperor himself. You're a tenant farmer, tied to the land like a ship to its anchor. Your tools are primitive: a wooden plow with an iron tip if you're lucky, a sickle for harvesting, and a flail for threshing. The soil is rocky, the weather is unpredictable, and the crops, barley, wheat, or lentils, are your lifeline. You plow, sow, weed, and harvest, all by hand, with your family pitching in. If you've got an ox, it's probably older than the city walls and twice as grumpy. If not, you're the beast of burden, pulling the plow while your kids scatter seeds. The work is relentless. Your hands blister, your back aches, and the sun either burns you red or hides behind clouds, leaving you shivering in damp clothes. You're not just farming, you're fighting off crows, repairing irrigation channels, and dodging the tax collector who demands a third of your yield. If the harvest fails, you're not just broke, you're starving. Famine is a regular visitor, and the landlord still expects his share, even if you've got nothing left. If you're in the city, you might be a craftsman, a baker, a tanner, a weaver, or a potter. Your workshop is a corner of your home, filled with smoke, stench, and the clatter of tools. Tanners work with urine-soaked hides, making your house the least popular on the block. Bakers sweat over wood-fired ovens, churning out bread for the city's masses. Weavers hunch over looms, producing cloth that's sold to merchants who'll haggle you into poverty. Every trade is regulated by guilds, which set prices, enforce quality, and can blacklist you if you step out of line. Women work just as hard. You're spinning wool, brewing ale, or selling vegetables at the market while keeping your kids from wandering into the Bosphorus. If you're a midwife, you're delivering babies in dim, smoky rooms with only prayers and experience to guide you. If you're too good at healing, you risk whispers of witchcraft, especially if a patient dies. Everyone works. Children haul water, the elderly mend nets, because survival demands every hand. Your pay is rarely cash. You might get a share of the harvest, a bolt of cloth, or a few fish from a neighbor. Coins, bronze folies, or the occasional silver narration are rare for common folk. Everything is taxed. The emperor takes a cut, the church demands tithes, and the local governor might invent a fee just because he can. If you're lucky, you've got enough to eat. If not, you're bartering your last good pot for a handful of onions. The ever-present shadow of death. As you toil, death is always watching. Life expectancy is around 35, and that's if you dodge the empire's many dangers. Disease is the biggest threat. The plague of Justinian ravaged the empire a century ago, and its lesser cousins, malaria, dysentery, leprosy, are still prowling. Waterborne illnesses are common, and a bad cough can turn into a death sentence. Doctors are more scholars than healers, quoting Galen while prescribing bloodletting or a poultice of questionable herbs. The local apothecary might sell you a mix of honey and sage, but it's no match for an infected wound. Injuries are just as deadly. A fall from a cart, a cut from a sickle, or a burn from the hearth can fester fast. There's no antiseptic, no stitches, just a barber surgeon with a rusty blade and a jug of wine for anesthesia. Amputation is a last resort, and surviving it is a coin toss. Childbirth is a gamble for both mother and baby, with midwives relying on skill and luck in equal measure. Violence is another constant. The empire is at war with the Arab Caliphate, and raids on rural villages are frequent. In the city, thieves lurk in alleys, and a drunken argument at the tavern can end with a knife in your side. Justice is brutal. Steal a fish, and you might lose a finger. Slander the emperor, and you're facing exile or a public flogging. The law doesn't mess around, and neither do the crowds who gather to watch punishments. Social life, fleeting moments of joy. After a day of grinding labor, you might limp to a tavern for a moment of relief. It's not a charming pub with craft brews. It's a dim, smoky room with sticky benches and wine that tastes like regret. You sip Creation, a cheap, watered-down wine, and trade stories about the emperor's latest war, or the monk who claims he saw a vision in the Hagia Sophia. It's not glamorous, but it's a break from the grind, and the laughter is worth more than gold. Church festivals are the real escape. On a saint's day, the city comes alive with processions, music, and the rare chance to eat something other than pulse. You might get a slice of honeyed bread or a skewer of grilled fish, and the streets fill with dancers swaying to the wail of a lyre or the beat of a drum. You flirt with a merchant's son, knowing marriage is more about dowries than desire, but for a moment, life feels lighter. Philosophical reflections, the meaning of endurance. As you collapse onto your straw mat at night, staring at the smoky rafters, you might wonder what it's all for. The Byzantines were steeped in faith, seeing life as a divine trial. Every hardship, every flea, every empty bowl was a step toward salvation, a test of your soul's resilience. Philosophers like Plotinus, whose ideas lingered in the empire's intellectual circles, argued that the material world was a shadow of the divine, and true peace lay in contemplation of the eternal. But you don't need a philosopher to feel the weight of existence. You endure because you must, for your family, your faith, or simply because giving up isn't an option. You find meaning in small victories, a child's laugh, a full granary, a shared joke at the market. Life in 650 CE is a crucible, forging resilience in the fire of daily struggle. The rhythm of the day, more details of daily life. Let's linger a bit longer in this world. Your day isn't just work and survival. It's a tapestry of small rituals and constant challenges. Mid-morning, you might pause to barter at the market, haggling over a handful of figs or a clay pot. The agora is a chaotic symphony of voices, merchants shouting, donkeys braying, and children darting through the crowd. You clutch your few bronze coins, knowing they won't stretch far. A loaf of bread costs a day's wages, and a scrap of cloth could bankrupt you. Lunch is another bowl of pulse or a piece of bread dipped in olive oil if you're feeling extravagant. You eat standing up, leaning against a wall, while swatting flies and dodging the neighbor's goat. There's no lunch break, no coffee run, just a quick bite before you're back to work. Afternoon brings more labor. If you're a farmer, you're repairing tools or hauling water from a distant well. If you're a craftsman, you're negotiating with a merchant who's trying to underpay you for a week's worth of pottery. Women might spend the afternoon carding wool or tending a small garden patch, coaxing turnips from rocky soil. Every task is urgent because winter is always coming, and a bad season could mean disaster. Evening is a brief respite. You gather around the hearth with your family, sharing a meager supper. Maybe a stew with a few lentils or a scrap of dried fish. You tell stories of saints and heroes, or sing a hymn to keep the darkness at bay. The kids fall asleep on the floor, and you whisper a prayer for their health, knowing half of them won't see adulthood. The bigger picture, the empire's pulse. Zoom out for a moment. Constantinople in 650 CE is a city under pressure. The empire is reeling from wars with the Persians and now faces the rising tide of the Arab Caliphate. The emperor, Constans II, is a young man struggling to hold the empire together. The Hagia Sophia looms over the city, its dome a symbol of divine favor. But the streets below are a gritty reality of survival. Trade flows through the Bosphorus, bringing silk, spices, and wealth, but most of it passes through the hands of the elite, not you. Religion shapes everything. Orthodoxy is the empire's heartbeat, and churches are as common as taverns. You attend services not just for faith, but for community, standing through long liturgies in a haze of incense and candlelight. Heresy is a dangerous word. Question the Trinity, and you might find yourself exiled or worse. Yet faith gives you hope, a belief that this life's struggles are a path to something greater. The nighttime ritual, preparing for rest. As the day ends, you prepare for sleep, but it's not as simple as climbing into bed. You check the fire, banking the coals to keep it alive until morning. You sweep the floor, not because you're tidy, but because rats are bolder at night. You sprinkle water around the doorway, a superstitious ward against evil spirits. You whisper a prayer to the Virgin Mary, asking for protection from thieves, illness, or the nightmares that haunt your sleep. Your straw mat is waiting, as uninviting as ever. You pull the wool blanket over you, ignoring the itch, and try to ignore the sounds. Your spouse's snoring, the chickens rustling, the distant howl of a dog. The city never truly quiets, but as you close your eyes, you let the hum of Constantinople fade, dreaming of a world where life is just a little less hard. Wrapping up, back to your bed. And there you have it, a day in the Byzantine Empire, 650 CE. No palaces, no glory, just a relentless grind punctuated by moments of human connection. As you drift off tonight, imagine the church bells softening, the city's chaos fading into a gentle hum. You're back in your own bed, safe from fleas, pulls, and medieval toilets. If you enjoyed this journey, hit that like button and subscribe for more soothing dives into history's forgotten corners. Drop a comment. What surprised you most about Byzantine life? Until next time, sleep well, and may your dreams be free of Constantinople's streets.